Hello! It's so exciting. I love turning this camera on, my vlog camera, because it means we're gonna go watch a new horror movie that's out at the cinemas. And today, that is Five Nights at Freddy's. Believe it or not, I have recently become a little bit of a gamer. I'm not a gamer girl, but if you do follow me on Twitch, you'll know I stream all the time, 3 times a week, and I play a lot of horror games. And I did attempt Five Nights at Freddy's. If you do want to watch the stream, I'll link it down below. I do have another channel on YouTube where I have all of my gameplay and I have what I did in that game, and I feel very guilty about it. Anyway, I just wanted to say I do know what Five Nights at Freddy's is. In fact, I did a whole lore video about it, and I am very excited to see what this movie brings to the table. This horror thriller mystery is directed by Emma Tammy, who's known for The Wind, which was a horror movie from 2018. The film stars Josh Hutcherson, Matthew Lillard, and Elizabeth Lail, and it takes place when a troubled security guard begins working at, of course, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And during the first night on the job, he realizes that the night shift won't be as easy as he thought it would be. This is not a cakewalk. If you know anything about the lore, I'm gonna keep it pretty spoiler free, but if you do know anything about the lore, I am hoping it kind of follows it, even though I don't expect it to get everything in. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, basically the whole premise of this is a security guard is monitoring screens while animatronic characters come to life and try to murder him. And the lore for the game is actually super deep and super crazy, which is why I did a basics video, but I don't think that they'll touch on a lot of that. The lore would take hours. It would have to be like a Game of Thrones length series to fit everything in, but I am hoping that they stick to just the premise of the first game and explain a little bit of that, but also have a couple of nods to the game for game players. I don't think that this is going to be an insane masterpiece. I'm thinking more like Willy's Wonderland with more depth and a little bit more darkness, and I'm glad that it's listed as a mystery as well, because I'm excited to dive into that mystery within the film. The one thing that I'm really curious about with this film is if they do the jump scares, because the whole game, that's the premise, is these things jump out and, you know, frighten you. And I have screamed so many times playing the game, so I really hope that they utilize those kinds of jump scares in this film. Usually, I mean, I like jump scares, I'm not against them, and they definitely have a time and a place, and I think that this is their time and place to shine. If Foxy doesn't jump out and scream in my face, I will be disappointed. What I thought was really cool about this is that they're not relying on CGI elements for the characters, and from what I've seen in the trailer, they look spot on to the game, which I thought was really cool. And believe it or not, it's Jim Henson's workshop that is bringing these characters to life. So I'm really excited to see what they look like, the animatronics, the puppets, the Muppets, kind of. I think that they're gonna look really cool. And that's really as far as my hopes and dreams go with this one. I think it's gonna be pretty straightforward. I'll be surprised if there's any interesting twists and turns, but I just hope it looks good. It's a little bit scary and a little bit kooky at the same time. If you're a fan, or if you're not too sure about checking this one out because you don't know much about the game, keep watching because I'll let you know whether it is worth your time without spoiling anything. Let's go to the cinemas and let's go watch Five Nights at Freddy's. Let's go. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. As someone who's recently did, I don't know, like at least 10 to 20 hours of research on the lore, that was so fucking confusing. This movie is not what any of us expected. People who are fans of it and people who are just going for a good time. who is this movie for? I'm so confused. Let me try and explain the main premise. Obviously, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but I do have a lot to say that it won't spoil it, but it will definitely let you know the vibe and if it's worth your time. The film is about a man who is dealing with some past trauma, and he gets an offer to go work at nights at Freddy Fazbear's pizzeria, where he will be doing the night shift. At the same time, he also has a sister that he is taking care of, and she seems to have her own issues, and he's trying to juggle getting his life back on track and keeping her safe. But as he starts working there, problems start arising, and it's all got to do with the animatronics that are the mascots of Freddy Fazbear's. So this is really strange because I didn't know if looking up the lore, even though I'd played the first game, but I didn't know if looking up the lore was going to ruin any of the surprises in here. And the funny thing is, it's kind of both at the same time. I'm glad I know what is meant to happen because some of the characters and some of the instances and situations, instead of being nods like they normally would be in anything that's based on, you know, something prior or recreated, readapted, usually there's nods and homage and it's kind of something in the background. And although it starts like that, it takes parts of what you know and it completely transforms it. And instead of nodding at things, it doesn't explain the bigger parts and it puts it as central to the storyline. So if I didn't know some of the characters, I would be so confused what was going on in that film because it all seems so bizarre and random, and only if you know the story will it kind of make sense. But at the same time, if you know the story, a lot of the mystery is kind of revealed for you. It focuses on a lot of the lore that is beyond the first game, which I thought was really interesting. I thought there's so much going on in the first and second game that it was really weird that they tied so many other characters and nods, just lore, into this. It's bizarre how much they try to fit into the 2-hour slot. But in saying all of that, the weirdest part is the atmosphere. My God. This had such a somber and sad and dreary and full of dread atmosphere, which is not what you expect for a game that is about bright singing and dancing animatronic animals that are a killer. You know what I mean? This is not that at all. The horror in this is slim to none. They cut away every time just before any action happens. It's just not what I expected. It's more of a drama, like a really sad and somber drama. And although I know the lore is based in that, I thought it was going to be more fun and bright and match the aesthetic, the visuals, because the animatronics and everything else, it looks fantastic. So it's like you're watching this masterpiece visually. Like the cinematography is beautiful. There's all these like stream sequences that are just stunning and have these drones, and the animatronics are just like, I don't know how they did it. They have such a good mix of looking fake but real at the same time, and you know it's like a person in the suit, but the way it's moving is so cool. It was done so well. But then the storyline is just bizarre, and I'm so glad I knew things because just things turn up and things happen that it's really hard and it seems very complicated and convoluted, and I was just really surprised they tried to shove it all into this one film, or they really did shove it all into one film. But at the same time, they also twist the lore. So if you do know things about it, they change things up to keep it surprising for you. So it's not exactly what we already know. It doesn't stay exactly true to lore. It makes it even more confusing, which I think is fun for people who know it and then they kind of like twist it a little bit. But at the same time, it's just very confusing what's happening because it is so complicated. I went to a 4 o'clock showing and I thought it'd be empty, but it was full of teenagers. And I think that they were all expecting a slasher, and by the end they were just quiet. A lot of people saying that this is going to be like Willy's Wonderland. It's not at all. It goes for a completely different storyline, which I knew, but it doesn't even do it in a fun, exciting way, a quirky way. And I also thought that it would have been really cool if they kept it simple and true to the actual gameplay aspect, but they don't even do much of that. It's just this, it's almost like all of the scenes that they should have cut out of the movie, they left in there. It was just so strange. And the performances, they were almost uncanny. Strange reactions, also strange kind of cadence on the way that Elizabeth Lyle spoke. and delivered her lines. I've watched a bunch of stuff with her, like Countdown was another horror movie she was in. Of course, she was in You, and a very main character in You, and I thought she was great, but she was so odd in this film, and I felt like it was just a lot of oddness kind of clamped together, and it was wrapped up in this bow of what a franchise that is colorful and scary and, you know, full of jump scares. And although there was maybe 1 or 2 jump scares, they really didn't take advantage of any of that stuff. I will say that there's a lot of things in the background, and for fans of the franchise, like, it was really cool to see it all come to life. And I mean, I've said this, the way it looked was fantastic. And the music was by the Newton Bros. So the way it looked and the music and everything, it was fun, but the content itself was just very confusing. And I think that at least for the first one, because it's Blumhouse, I'm sure they're going to do a sequel. If they kept it more simple this time, they could have branched out further. But there's so much jammed into it that it's confusing why they would try and rush through so much of the story. This is not what I expected at all, and I don't think it's what anyone expected, to be honest. It's not a fun, kind of cutesy, strange, kooky slasher, much like its game. It's slow, dark, and really depressing. And it really wanted to go for a deeper story than keeping it light and fluffy, which I respect. But you've got to have some of that fluffy, you know, killer slasher goodness in a movie that's what people expect. It's a horror movie about animatronics, an animatronic chicken, and a cupcake that it holds. Like, make it fun, make it silly. And of course, if you want to go serious, you can do that too. But the whole thing was just a bit of a bummer, I have to say. I really liked the setup. There's a lot of throwbacks to the game in that regard, but after that, the pacing just became very strange, and I realized it was not going to do a 180 anytime soon. I don't think that it's slow in terms of, you know, nothing happens. I think it's slow in terms of it feels more like a drama film than a horror throughout most of it. And if that sounds like something that you would want to watch, maybe check it out at cinemas. But I think this one might be best for streaming, especially if you're a fan of the games. I think a lot of people who are a fan of the games are going to get pissed off by this. And I think that people who don't know anything about the games are going to watch this and be like, I'm sorry, what? And I wish that it would have picked a lane, staying completely true for the fans, or just making it really simple and fun for people to get into the franchise, which I think would have been the better option, especially for Blumhouse. Make it fun, make it exciting, and, you know, have a little bit of mystery and twist to it. Anyway, that was a surprise. I was loving the start of this film, but I'm going to have to give it a personal score of 5 out of 10, which I hate doing. I hate this. I did not think this was going to happen. I honestly thought it was going to be so lighthearted and silly, and I was going to have a fun time like Megan or something like that. For a scare, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. I didn't think it was scary at all. And it just lost so much of that. It was so sad because it's so easy to just keep people in the dark and have, you know, noises and things jump out, and they didn't even. And originality, I think I'm gonna have to give it a 6 because it is a very strange story and it's done in a very original way for this theming, I guess. Anyway, this one is streaming online on Peacock, I believe, in America. So if you are a fan of the game, I recommend just watching it on streaming. But I wouldn't rush it. I would love to know if you've seen it, what you thought. And if you have seen it, and even if you haven't, I have done a lore video. It does have some spoilers for the gameplay, which are revealed in some ways in the movie, but it really did help me knowing the lore, and I've done this video for you, which will explain some of the characters that are vital to the story. Anyway, I hope you're having a fantastic day. Don't forget to stay safe and stay spooky, and let me know what you thought about this film down below if you've seen it. Bye, friends.